There's no way he hasn't talked about this. There's no way. Maybe there was someone around him who he knew he could go to, a family member or something. Hey, I'm in trouble. I did a thing.
On this episode of Just In Case You Forgot, I finally talked with Detective Jeff Bessinger, the detective who is currently working the Stacey Colbert investigation.
County investigation on November 27, 2004, when a hunter looking for his lost hunting dog located a skull in the woods. That started the investigation for Delaware County.
Now on Just In Case You Forgot.
Just In Case You Forgot podcast is produced and hosted by William Swafford. Music was put together by William Swafford.
My name is Jeff Bessinger, and I am currently a sergeant with the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. Prior to that, I was promoted last summer out of the Detective Bureau, where I spent the previous 16 years as an investigator.
That was the detective who is currently working the Stacey Colbert investigation in Delaware County, Ohio. I first wanted to know if Detective Bessinger mainly worked on homicide cases or if he worked other types of crimes also.
As the investigator, we handled felony level cases. I was pretty blessed. The last 7-8 years, our sheriff made a cold case unit and chose two of the senior guys, myself and another detective, to run the unit. Delaware County has about a dozen unsolved cold cases, and we don't like to call them cold cases. We like to call them lukewarm because we always are working on them. So yeah, felony level cases, what my expertise was with these cold cases.
I asked Detective Bessinger how many cold cases that he has worked on personally himself.
Myself and my partner at the time, Rusty Yates, we basically picked 3 or 4 of the dozen that we had and kind of looked them over, the ones that we thought were most likely to have maybe see some closure to. We were able to successfully solve 2 of them as we speak, and a third one is in the process that we're solving. Can't give you a whole lot of details on that one, but one of the first ones we solved was the young man went missing in 2005. We were able to locate him about 10 years later, unfortunately deceased in his vehicle in a body of water, but it gave the family some closure. And then most recently, we solved the 1983 homicide of Tony Muncie, a 16-year-old boy that went missing out of Whitehall.
It is good to hear that there has been success with solving some cold cases. I did wonder if Detective Bessinger had heard of Stacey's investigation before he had taken over the investigation.
I had not. No, it started off as a missing person case with strictly the Columbus City Police Department's investigation. She went missing March 24th of 1998, and then it became a Delaware County investigation on November 27th, 2004, when a hunter looking for his lost hunting dog located a skull in the woods. That started the investigation for Delaware County. It wasn't for a week or two until the dental records were compared that we had a positive ID, and the name of Stacey Colbert first came on our horizon.
This makes me wonder why the Columbus detectives did not contact or did not repeatedly contact the sheriff departments of the surrounding counties of Franklin County to make sure that they all knew that Stacey was missing and to keep an eye out for Stacey. I wanted to know how long Detective Bessinger had been working on the investigation on how Stacey died.
The Stacey Colbert case, I have probably 8 years. Solid 8 years.
How difficult was it for Delaware County to start their investigation so many years after Stacey had gone missing?
We were lucky because the city of Columbus being a large agency, they treated the case as a homicide case early on based upon the information that they found at the house or her apartment there at Governor Square. So with that being said, they had good documentation, good pictures, good evidence collection, and so forth. So not like a case, I have another case from 1971 where all the report is handwritten from investigators. At least this was stuff, digital photographs, and so forth. So, once we got a hold of the report and started working, it was laid out very nicely as far as how things transpired.
So all the evidence that they did collect was well preserved?
It was, yes, sir.
It is good to hear that the Columbus detectives did a good job with taking care of the evidence that they had collected back in March of 1998. I asked if it was difficult dealing with law enforcement from a different county, which is in Franklin County.
No, Franklin County is in our backyard. We work with them routinely on stuff. I have several of the homicide investigators in my phones from doing other investigations. So, we're able to reach out, text, or whatever. So, we play well together.
When Stacey's remains were found in Delaware County in the year of 2004, the Delaware County Sheriff at the time made a statement saying that Delaware County was like a body dumping ground for the surrounding counties. I asked the detective how he felt about that statement.
It's funny that you say that because that is true. However, we do have homicides that occur here. We may see 1, 2 a year, if that. But a lot of times the bodies that are the homicides that we are investigating are the result of somebody dumping the bodies here. I remember when I first started, we were having prostitutes dumped on Africa Road. Obviously, Stacey's body was left here. We don't believe she was killed here. She was abducted in Franklin County from her apartment. We've had other cases likewise where, bodies were dumped here.
That makes me wonder about what makes Delaware County a good place to dump a body. I have never been to Delaware County, so I know nothing about the area. Detective Bessinger was nice enough to describe Delaware County for me. For myself, this ties into whether or not a person would have to know the area or didn't know the area. This is the reason why I asked Stacey's friends and sister if Stacey had known anyone with any connection to Delaware County.
Delaware County is the fastest growing county in the state of Ohio. It is the 7th fastest growing county in the United States. We have economic growth. We have subdivisions that are daily popping up. We have a subdivision with over 5,000 homes. We are roughly 460 square miles in size and about the population of 200,000 plus of people that live here. However, there's probably easy 1 million people that pass through this county daily, whether they're on their way to Columbus or other major cities. So one minute you can be in a rural county area, such as the area where Stacey's remains were found. The next minute you can be, we have a area that's called Polaris Parkway, which is a giant mall area. We have outlet malls. We have, just about anything you can imagine. We have all walks of life that come through our jurisdiction on a daily basis. We have the wealthiest of the wealthiest and the poor of the poor. But I kind of think of us a little bit as the melting pot of Central Ohio. One county north of the state capital, I should say.
I wanted Detective Bessinger to tell me what he could about the location where Stacey was found and what he knew about her being found in Delaware County.
Obviously, she was reported missing. A family member of hers reported her missing March of 98. Fast forward to November of 2004. A hunter was in the northwestern part of our county. We have a state route called State Route 257 north, and her remains were found on that state route to the northeast of that route near Hoskins Road, in a wooded area, well off the roadway, well off where you could see a body. There's a river that runs through there, and she was located in this wooded area that runs next to the Scioto River at 257 at Hoskins Road, like I said, on the northeast side of the wooded area.
I asked if that location would be easy to find if someone did not know Delaware County.
So state route. The same state route runs all the way from southern Delaware County all the way to northern Delaware County. I think that somebody could have known the area, or I also think that it's possible that somebody, looked over and said, you know what, there's nobody around, there's no vehicles, there's no houses on top of each other, this is a good spot. I kind of thought about this last night, why this area? It's a question we've often wondered.
I mentioned before in another episode that years ago, Delaware County law enforcement stated that they could only say for sure that Stacey's remains had been in that spot where she was found for at least 2 years. Plus, there had been some kind of brush clear out 5 years before finding Stacey. So I asked Detective Bessinger if he thought Stacey's remains were at that spot the whole time, or if her remains possibly could have been moved sometime throughout the years.
No, we've always thought the body was there the whole time. 70% of her remains were recovered there. With that being said, I mentioned earlier, it was right beside the Scioto River. The river rises and it falls. Animal activity would have played a part with the missing bones. We have no reason to believe that the body was moved or transported to a different location just because of the amount of bones that we did find there that were, scattered in the area where, like I said, the river would have flowed and kind of carried stuff a little bit or downstream and so forth. But we've always thought that was her final resting place.
So for myself, that brings up the question, who might have had access to that land in 1998? Who else could have used that land to hunt or fish? I asked Detective Bessinger if he has seen any progress with the investigation since he has been working on it.
Yeah, I have. I feel confident our person of interest is responsible for this. With that being said, we had a kind of a little bit of a break about a year and a half ago on the case. Unfortunately, it was nothing that allowed us to indict or charge anybody yet. Our hope is that this individual messes up again, and that we are able to put everything together at that point.
Hey true crime fans, if you like Just In Case You Forgot, you will also want to check out Murderers in Ohio on YouTube. Murderers in Ohio is about men and women who have been convicted of murder in the state of Ohio. And it is hosted by myself, Bill Swafford. So go to Murderers in Ohio on YouTube and subscribe now.
So we got the killer on a run in Ohio.
This investigation at this point in time is 25 years old. The chances of finding new physical evidence could be getting slimmer as the days go on. This investigation might come down to only being solved by someone speaking up and giving law enforcement a new lead in the investigation. I asked Detective Bessinger if he still had faith that this could still possibly happen. Someone finally talking after 25 years.
Like I told you when we first started talking, I don't care how the case gets solved. I just want it solved. A lot of times it just takes that one person to come forward and reach out to me and say, are you aware of this? Because sometimes the most obvious things that people think that we're aware of, we're not. Unfortunately, it's been 25 years come March. People's memories fade. People die. People pass away. I encourage and I welcome any sort of tips, information, knowledge that would help us solve this. And, if we are aware of it, we're aware of it. But, there's a good possibility we're not.
I did bring up to Detective Bessinger the fact that in 1998, there were 498 missing person cases filed in the city of Columbus, Ohio. I asked him if he thought there was any chance Stacey's case was shuffled to the bottom of the pile of all the other missing person cases since Stacey had gone missing in March, the early part of 1998.
No, I don't. Stacey was a true victim in this. And when I say that, I don't mean to downplay other victims. It's like comparing a drug-related shooting or a drive-by shooting for gang members. Here we have I don't want to say upper, but middle-class woman lives alone that comes up missing. Based upon the reports, based upon the level of investigation that was done by the city of Columbus at the time, I feel confident that they did everything in their power at the time to investigate and look for some sort of resolvement.
I needed to know if any outside help has come in to help out the investigation, like the FBI or the Ohio Bureau of Investigation.
We commonly use the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, which is BCI, here in London. They have been helping us process evidence since we took the case in 2004 when her remains were found. The Indiana State Police has assisted us in our investigation with processing some evidence that came into play a few years back. We commonly reach out to other agencies with our person of interest right now. The Delaware County Prosecutor's Office has also played a part in helping with this investigation. Definitely nothing that we said this is our investigation. We don't want any help. Again, we are open to any and all people that could assist in solving this.
This is Detective Bessinger again.
I would just like to encourage, anybody that may know Stacey or may remember anything back when she went missing from Governor Square apartment in Columbus, Ohio, or, from her sorority that may have known any of her acquaintances or anything along those lines to reach out to me. I would certainly welcome any and all information that this podcast produces for those leads and tips to come forward.
This interview that I had with Detective Jeff Bessinger happened before I started to put this podcast together. So I will have to admit that I wasn't sure on the questions that I wanted to ask him about the investigation at that time. I have reached out to Detective Bessinger for a second interview, which I will go over in another episode in this podcast. Doing this podcast has only added questions to the stack of unanswered questions that I already have. And I hope in the second interview, Detective Jeff Bessinger will be able to answer some of those. Here again is what Danielle had to say about Detective Bessinger.
Which is great. And I'll tell you, once her remains were found and he became involved, that he really has done quite a bit in the background to help move things forward, for sure. 6-7 years, so since everything happened.
I did say something to Paula about the possibility of new physical evidence not being found in the future.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And the only physical evidence that we think might be out there is her necklace. That's why we show it on that Facebook page all the time. That necklace is gone. She never took it off. Now, it could have fallen off over the years. Her ring, that we can imagine as her body decomposed that it fell off. But a necklace around a neck, I guess an animal potentially could have taken it, but I don't know. We all just kind of suspect that her murderer kept that.
You can see a picture of the necklace that Paula is talking about on the Finishing Stacey's Fight Facebook page. Here's Paula again.
Other than we want justice for Stacey, of course, but we want this man off the streets before he I mean, I'm sure he's hurt other people, but he needs to be stopped before that number gets to be even more. Someone knows something, and if they don't speak, unless they're a victim, victims are different, but if he's got a friend who knew about this, a roommate, a coworker, they're almost as guilty as he is if they don't speak. And it's not too late for them to come forward and do the right thing. It's not. But as long as they keep quiet, they're enabling a murderer. That's not okay. She was just a girl living her life. She wanted to get married. She wanted to move to Chicago. She wanted to be a mom. No one deserves to be a victim. I would never, ever say that. But she lived such a low-risk life. She did everything the right way. It just doesn't make sense. I just don't understand why someone would do this to her. Or who.
Here I'm talking to Alicia about the 498 missing person cases that were filed in Columbus in the year of 1998.
In 1998, there was like close to 500 missing person cases filed just in the city of Columbus alone. Do you think by any chance that their workload maybe got a little bit too heavy, maybe hers by accidentally, not on purpose, maybe kind of got shuffled off to the side?
I don't know if it got shuffled off to the side. I think she was just another case and just another number. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's a good question. I think she was just probably just another case, another situation. And that's why, I just didn't understand, the sense of urgency. It just seems so bureaucratic. When someone that 100% just didn't, run off or just going on a trip or something like that. I didn't understand, the bureaucracy of, the timelines and the lags, and when I feel like more action could have been taken. So it could have been an output of there were so many cases and she's just one more. But I don't know.
The reason why I asked is because I don't know the size of department they had to work on that many cases in 1 year.
Yeah, and I feel like there was turnover too. I feel like the detectives changed at some point as well. And so, when you don't have that, dedicated focus and things like that, I'm sure she just becomes a file that sits on a filing cabinet and just gathers dust on it at a certain point because now it's the next new thing.
On the next episode of Just In Case You Forgot, I will talk again with Danielle and Stacey's sorority sisters about possible theories around Stacey's death.
Time expected to find out she'd been killed by the same person who killed Stephanie Hummer, because at that time we didn't know who had killed Stephanie. That was still a huge mystery. And I don't know if you know much about that case.
Right. I think it must have been just by chance that nobody saw, because it really seems like whether you went out her front or back door, you were risking anybody else in the complex seeing you.
That's next time on Just In Case You Forgot. Please remember that this is still an ongoing homicide investigation. If you have any information on the death of Stacey Colbert, please contact the Delaware County Sheriff's Department in Ohio.
Just In Case You Forgot podcast is produced and hosted by William Swafford. Music was put together by William Swafford.